There we go. I can pass that down. All right, so I'm opening the meeting at 6:31. Everyone from the select board is in attendance, and this meeting is being recorded. Please join me for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so moving on to number 2, citizen statements and petitions. I'm asking if anybody in the room or anybody online would like to speak directly to the board about a matter not on the agenda tonight. Seeing no hands, I will move on to number 3, which is the community events and announcements. So first up is the 2nd annual Scarecrow Contest. You can sign up by emailing the Cultural Council at mendonma.gov. And they would like you to do that right now from September 1st through September 27th. And then do the email to register, and then you will display your scarecrow from October 1st through the 31st. And the winner will be announced on October 27th. Second up is the townwide scavenger hunt, which is on Sunday, September 21st, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And that's rain or shine. And Rock the Block, which is September 6th. That seems to be very soon. This Saturday. So make your way out to Rock the Block. The event is free to attend. There'll be vendors there and things you can buy and food you can eat. And then that will end off at night with a fireworks display.
Yeah, we have black music as well.
So that'll be a lot of fun. And then last up would be the next following weekend is Public Safety Day, September 13th from 11 to 3 at Clough School. And the rain date will be Sunday, September 14th. They've got all sorts of awesome stuff to display there, trucks,
Life flight
helicopter. So that'll be pretty neat. So touch a truck with an addition of a couple of blades for a helicopter, right? So it'll be pretty neat. All right. So moving on to number 4, which is the one-day liquor license application. And John Wozniak is here to tell us about that.
Yeah, we're looking for a one-day liquor license for the Barbell 88 truck pull event. This is on September 27th this year. The event starts at 10. Obviously, we won't be utilizing liquor license until appropriate time under the state statutory authority. And we'll run it until approximately 5 o'clock. We intend to have a Brinsley beer, 2 different varieties, tap system. The beer is being provided by Quality Beverages, who's a distributor. The tap system is going to be generously donated by another party that's going to set us all up. And we expect it to be an incredible event.
And what's the date for this event?
It's Barbell 88 truck pull, and I believe it's the 15th. The
27th.
27th of September.
And you have 12 to 10 p.m.
I have 12 to 10, only because I went to the outside edge. If I was
Okay.
going to get the permit to allow us to break down and whatnot, I didn't want to run afoul of the deadline at 5 o'clock.
So
Clarify or on the agenda, I'm looking at our items 4 and 5, the same
It should be one.
one. Okay, so those are both. Okay.
So number 4 and number 5 are slightly different variations of the exact same approval, which is for the one-day liquor license charity event. So if there are no questions from the board, this is something we've done.
holding the license?
We're going to be holding the license with regard to just our vending service, just what we're operating. My Andre's here as the owner of Barbell 88.
Okay.
As opposed to ID license.
So Barbell 88 will. He's the attorney for this.
Just so you know, we acquired, because I was required to buy a 3-day policy, because they had a minimum 3-day requirement. That also means Barbell 88 is an additional insured. And the limits on that policy are 2 million. Well, don't say it too often, lawyers and.
The question of clarification, I understand the event, the C from 12 to 10, CLC 11 to 3 is the hours, is that pouring hours or see, I see a discrepancy in hours, it's one clarification.
Right.
With the pouring hours.
So the event is from 10 to 4.
Yeah.
Morning would be from 11 to 3.
The 11 to 3 is what we put on the motion. That's,
So this being our 5th year,
Yeah.
the event really hasn't, the last 2 years, it usually ends around like 3:30, it all depends how many people are. So if we can kind of stretch.
Yeah, no, I remember the event.
Longer.
good with it. I just want to make sure when we make the motion, we have the right.
Yeah.
I would prefer to have a little bit of a buffer beyond the 3, only so we can break down like that. So I just don't want to follow with anyone. Our policy covers 3 days, but our setup is fundamentally a flatbed trailer. We're building a top to that, which is going to contain a pizza oven and taps and the coolers and sinks and everything that this company is looking for. And it's going to have the motif of a store.
It's like a 10 to 6. Front end to back end buffer.
Yep.
Seem reasonable.
It does.
I'll make the motion to approve the 1-day liquor license for the charity event, Uplifting Heroes at Barbell 88 on September 27, 2025, from 10 to 6 p.m. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? All those against? Right, motion passes. Thank you again for running this event. This is very popular, so. Yeah, absolutely.
It's only each and every year.
Thank you.
Our touch truck is we had massive too, so nice little fire truck.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so you guys are around, please come with us.
Okay.
Thank you guys.
Good luck.
Enjoy the rest of the week.
So we're gonna pass over number 6 for the moment and move to number 7, which is meeting minutes for approval. That would be from August 6, 2025. And I just, before we go through to the motion, and I'm sorry, as well as 7/28/25, I just want to ask the board, minutes are coming through the new board civic clerk. And just like, is that working for you? Is there something that you want to see changed there? Are you seeing, I just want to ask procedurally, since minutes, how they've been distributed has changed over the last few months. So checking in on that. Everybody okay with that? Yeah. Well, seeing as there's no discussion on whether the minutes coming through email is okay or not, I'd like to see a motion to approve August and July's meeting minutes.
So move.
Any discussion?
Yeah, second.
I'll second.
Yeah, I missed that. So I.
So just.
All right, seeing a second from Elena, any discussion?
Did notice something that I would like to.
Okay,
Second. These. This is for the August 6th. And where it says at the end, it says, July 20th. You go to next meetings, there's a scrivener's error where there's a copy paste from a previous section.
Oh, you know what? I think I saw that as well, for that it left
So I'm
my
going to
head.
strike that out. But other than
So
that,
which page is that? Right on the packet?
28 of 44.
so
On next week, the next meeting's. Exactly.
So,
do we need to amend the motion? for that?
Yeah. absolutely. 7 minutes hasn't.
actually, hang on 1 second, because I feel like maybe.
Sign message. something. Essentially, it'll be opening.
I don't see anything else, so maybe that was what I saw. Rang a bell, but yeah. It was nothing major if I saw an error.
Yeah, and just from like the technical background, the way that the meetings go, the agendas go together now is essentially each one of these items is a separate object and can be brought from meeting to meeting until it completes. And so sometimes this duplication,
Which is generally,
yeah, generally,
Mhm.
but that must have been in the wrong number at the time. Okay, so, right, as amended. Like to see, now we had the discussion, we want to amend it, we need a second for the as amended,
I think,
you need a whole new motion.
well, because Jeremy said it, unless you're making a motion.
I will make the motion,
I second that motion.
so to, publish as amended with the script, with the error, Scribner's error, I would say Scribbler.
That works too.
Remove it. Okay, so, discussion. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? That was procedurally fun. Alrighty, and so, the meeting minutes for circulation, number 8, are August 20th, our last. Right, so, number 9, the disclosure of appearance of conflict of interest policy. I just like saying that. There was a discussion because we received the disclosure, and as you remember, last time we received one, we had a discussion, where does this get held? It gets held with the appointing authority, right, is the answer. And in discussion with the clerk, it is possible for us to, instead of maintaining the holding authority, it's possible for us to delegate that to the clerks, that she would maintain all of the records of these disclosures in one place, as opposed to having them with our board, and, you know, and then separate ones with her. And so I thought that was a good recommendation. I wanted to bring that to the board to discuss. And if you think that, just like the task we've delegated to Jeremy, it's delegating that task away from Jeremy into the office of the clerk seems like a good idea, then
And so you said the town clerk made the suggestion
she
herself?
said it's possible for her to do that.
Possible
She would
for
be
her
happy
to do that. Okay.
yeah, so right now, those disclosures of conflicts of interest or possible conflicts of interest need to be filed with the appointing authority.
I see.
So if any of you all have a conflict of interest, you need to file it with the town clerk. Have an appointing authority, you're elected. But everybody who you appoint needs to file with you. But there's no select board office that reasonably does this sort of thing. So to have them all filed with the town clerk, it's just operationally.
It makes sense to me, so,
Yeah,
And I'm assuming it's not just us, it's the Board of Health appoints,
Yep.
the assessors appoint, the library trustees appoint. So all of those appointing authorities, all of the potential conflict of interest filings would all be in one repository at the town clerk's office.
So you can't make a policy that says the Board of Health needs to.
But we can suggest it to them.
Yeah, and I believe they would be receptive. to
I
that.
think everybody would.
Yeah,
I think.
that's-
one of the main reasons is retrieval of those records.
Sure.
If they're requested, then the clerk has to go help find them anyway. If they're in her records,
Yeah.
it just makes sense.
So the outgoing chair of the Conservation Commission filed a potential conflict of interest with me about an engineering firm that sometimes comes in front of the Conservation Commission and is doing work on their private property. And it just sits on the desk, and that's like reasonably not where it should sit. It should sit with the town clerk. Because exactly, central repository.
Right. So that was that. It's kind of short and sweet, just another.
And can we make a part of the policy that anybody who needs to file this can file it electronically with the town clerk?
So I think it should be filed with the appointing authority and the town clerk, because they're statutory required to file with the appointing authority.
Mhm.
So it should be with you and. And then that's where the record keeping actually happens. So we satisfy our statutory obligation and then satisfy the reasonable operational.
And electronically, can we include that?
And I think that's fine.
Yeah.
For sure.
Who would be responsible for drafting such a policy? Is that something,
So it can be as simple as you vote on it now. And as the select board. That conflict of interest policy shall be filed with the appointing authority and the select board, so that's on my town administrator's report is that I have a repository of enduring votes of the select board, so things like appointing for on-call firefighters, right?
Yeah.
Empower the town administrator, that sort of thing. So confirmation of those, so certification of those votes. So I will do certification vote for this sort of thing. And send that around to all the boards to say, you need to file it with your appointing authority as the statute requires, and then also file it with the town clerk in terms of.
is that how you want to have it?
What you want, you can put it in this policy.
Well, that's where I was going. I mean, I think we can execute on it now to operationalize it, but I do think it should be updated, amended.
Build it into the policy.
I think that
Because it stands alone as essentially an executive order, it's not.
Well, my question would be if we make the motion now and he documents it, do we really have to take another vote to make it part of our policy manual? Or can we
Well, it's
just-
permanent when it's part of.
Well, but it's permanent. I don't think it makes it any more permanent. I think it's just, the suggestion is once we vote it, it goes in, it becomes part of the policy. And it should be written into the manual, otherwise we take a separate motion to.
So, yeah, the one caveat there is that in that policy, there's a procedure for changing the document.
It involves
That
town
is-
council.
That involves, yeah. A little bit more. Better said than that.
So I think right now, you can do an operational vote, and then I can put the policy and come back to you with say how.
We could also maybe look at quarterly or semi-annual policy updates. So this is one to be added, perhaps or move between now.
That's probably.
That's a good idea, yeah.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
That's a good.
But I do think we should update, because future boards will understand what the policy and procedure is for
Right,
this appointing authority.
right.
I think that's fair, and this happened so we can keep it up with other things. and come back to it.
And
Alright.
I think
They do have
that,
it.
yeah, the fact that it's infrequent, I think makes it more important that we like, yeah, codify it so that, it may not happen again for another year or something, and so that it's
So
easy for people to find in the future, for us or them.
it is the one who really was the principal author of the document. You're saying that just by us making a motion to put it into that policy manual as part of this motion isn't enough. It still needs to be reviewed by council.
The way it's written is that there's a procedure for changing, which basically involves, here are the proposed changes, releasing them, waiting for comment, and then making sure with council that they
So
are
you,
not violating
so you
anything.
can capriciously say, we're
Yeah.
we're
Oh, sure.
prohibited from doing this, and then tonight we're gonna change the policy so we can do something counter to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little, there's a purposefully high bar.
Yeah, but
But I
we
think-
can make the motion now and it's
Yeah,
Yeah,
temporarily
I will
effective, I
make a
guess.
motion That we,
we'd love to hear your motion.
yeah. I'll make the motion that we update our appearance of conflict of interest policy such that the town clerk and the appointed select board are both notified all the record keeping and document storage will occur with the town clerk's office.
okay.
Discussion? All right, seeing as none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Excellent. Motion passes. Alrighty, number 10, approval of donations for Rock the Block. We have a bunch of money coming in. And to support this event that's happening this weekend.
Yeah,
So we need to accept that into our,
yes, this is not. Right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 donations. So we have a number of folks, a total, we have 10 different vendor booths. So those are folks who pay $50 to come to and be vendors. Which are not particularly no donations. They're paying for a service, but we do have $500 for being here. But we have $17,800 in donations. So any donation to the town is accepted into a gift account, and the select board needs to accept those donations. These don't have strings attached to them. These are donations for the execution of the Rock Block event. So we have the Friends of Mendon Elders with $100, Imperial Chrysler Dodge for $10,000, Naomi Vaught Century 21 Home Realty for $1,200, Kimball Sand and Company for $2,500. Allen Engineering Associates $500, Devaney Energy $500, Pause Bed and Biscuit $2,500, and Boucher Energy for $500. So I would move for a motion to accept the donations as presented for the execution of the Rock the Block event this Saturday.
I move, okay. Second.
Is there any discussion on this one?
And so these individuals, depending on their level of donation, will get prominent placement, very prominent placement on a banner on the place. But it is not enduring. We're not disposing of the property to put a banner up at Memorial Field forever. So it's not a disposition of public property. It is simply an advertisement for the day. It's a recognition of the donation.
Very generous donations, yes.
So
It's great to see a lot of these Mendon businesses here, so.
And there will be, I talked with some of the organizers earlier today, who were gathering a couple more checks, which also similarly had kind of no strings attached, just the execution of the event. So there will be another acceptance of donation at the next select board meeting, even though the event will have just based on time. So this event is entirely community sponsored. There's not town folks or town funds being spent on this. There will be some details and some highway overtime associated with bathroom disposal of trash and things like that. But insofar as the gift fund, which was set up for this, has a available balance, we will then move those wages, those overtime, that's onto this fund. So if there is any town funds expended on this, it will be marginal.
All right. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Right, motion passes. Thank you for your generous donations. So, town meeting discussion. Number 11, we opened the town meeting warrant, but did not set a closure date. So,
Which the town clerk has been asking me about since.
Okay.
so this is to propose a closing date. October 2nd is the current proposed date. But if there's any discussion about another date.
So we reliably need 30 days before town meeting to be able to finalize the warrant. So statutorily, we need 14 days to sign it and post it. We need about 30 days to be able to finalize it with the printer and mail it out to folks, and just kind of the earlier the better. And we're looking at Thursdays, not Fridays. Last time we did this special town meeting warrant closure, we did it on a Friday, and the town clerk had to come in and change the date. So October 2nd, October 9th would also be feasible, but October 2nd is my suggestion.
When you say October 2nd, we have a tendency of throwing placeholders out there for looking at specifics.
Yep.
October 2nd is the date to have it all finalized, all the details captured.
Now, we can still have placeholders at that
Okay.
point. So
It's
we
like the
would,
23rd.
so yeah, we could conceivably not send it out until 14 days before exactly. So 14 days before would be October 27th, so we would have 2 weeks to.
I would just say before actually, that drop dead date and that too, so we communicate it to various boards, committees.
So the
people.
capital planning committee is meeting on Monday, the 8th and Monday, the 22nd. So by the 22nd, we.
And what are we meeting, the first and the 15th?
Exactly. So we'll meet the first and hopefully have the lion's share of things. I don't know my town administrator's report, but planning to continue with town council on, it was one bylaw that was changes to NEMA and FEMA, not quite up to stuff that we have to change, so planning to meeting with council on Monday, to go on that, but we won't have. I have one request from fire and one request from Board of Health. Aside from that, I don't.
Community preservation's gonna be in September, so next meeting will be first Tuesday in October, I think. And I think with CPC, a lot of times, other people are looking at their funds for their projects, so I just want to be. And it still works, I'm just saying you want to be very.
Bylaw review committee is also coming to talk to us on October 1st. Yeah,
And we can do it.
and
not
they
before-
have a meeting tonight, so they might be, right, so they might be bringing.
Yeah, I mean, placeholders, you know, I mean, so as long as it's captured, that's why I want to clarify what the second is.
Second's definitely not drop dead. I said to the town clerk, the second, does the second or ninth work? For you? She said yes, so I think the ninth gives us a little more flexibility.
Yeah, there's a bunch of moving stuff.
And also the things we know by the second, I can already write my report out. It's not like I need to the ninth.
Well, that's 15 minutes of the day.
Can we just
I wait till first.
say out loud when the date of the special town
So,
meeting
yes,
is?
exactly. So town meeting is Wednesday, November 12th. So should we close the warrant on Thursday, October 9th? And it's a Thursday because town hall is closed on Fridays.
Mhm.
And citizen petitions are allowed to be filed until the warrant's closed. So rather we'll make the town clerk come in on the day that she doesn't otherwise have to come in. Thursdays, right? The guidance from town clerk and executive assistant has been 30 days to close the warrant. To be able to finalize the report in the mailer, to be able to mail it out to folks. And it needs to be posted statutorily 14 days before town meeting. So that gives us time to polish the placeholders. The 9th and the 16th.
I'm okay with the second, as long as you can polish afterward, just because I think we need to be more disciplined in planning and getting ahead of it. So I think a second, I was happy to see a second date, I was just curious what would be allowed and not allowed.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't wanna. Are we going to have placeholders from the Community Preservation Commission prior to their Tuesday, October 7th meeting?
Well, say for instance, the capital planning committee prioritizes town hall windows, which is in the queue. Back CPC to do proper vetting, et cetera. If there's any capital projects that potentially CPC funds, CPC is gonna have to review that and vote and all that stuff. So those would all be placeholders until those votes are taken.
You think that would be able to happen in October?
I mean, the CPC tends to make it happen, they'll approach the.
Okay.
I just think that's why I think if you, the more we push it forward, the more we get time.
Yeah, I mean, we'll know on Thursday if the bylaw review committee or if the select board, and bylaw review committee don't agree, we'll know that day, so, I mean.
And I just think that, between the second and the ninth, you should be scrambling that 1 week's time to get something done. You know you're gonna do it.
That's 30 days, 29 days.
I just think that leave it the second, and if you're serious about pushing something, you be ready for at least a placeholder with some, meat on the bone for people to find out.
You all also meet on the 1st, so you can change it. to the 1st.
Right, we can change it last minute anyway. So I'd be looking for a motion to set the October 2nd date as the close for the warrant.
So moved.
Second,
Discussion. All those in favor?
I,
All those against? Passes. Right. That's early. First good time. Okay, number 12, renewal of a class 2 license for Arthur Champney, doing business as Ron Champney's Used Cars. This license was non-renewable, and he's recently paid off his taxes, and so now his application can be passed through.
I move to approve the class 2 license for Arthur Champney, DBA Ron Champney's Used Cars.
Second.
Discussion? Hey, seeing as there's none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion passes.
That was outstanding since before I started, so I'm glad to.
That's an exciting closure of an event for you. So we call that in the municipal government, like those unsolved cases.
A cold life.
Okay.
Why files? Okay. Number 13 is the 1926 committee request to use the Inman Hill from October 9th, 2026 to October 12th, 2026. And Jeremy will have to unlock his iPhone first. And that is my item as a resident. And so I am going to step down from the chair position, and Mike's going to lead this conversation.
I'll accept the motion to,
Right, so,
the floor is yours.
thank you.
Name and address, please.
Jason Cooter, 129 Blackstone. So I came before the board a few months ago to talk about this 100 Years of Scouting event. And in the meantime, I've been meeting with public safety and conservation and land use and residents and volunteers of trail stewards. Have another meeting with the person on the top of Inman Hill this Friday. So we've been getting out there and talking to people and getting their opinions. We had originally said that we wanted to do this on Veterans Day, but after speaking with land use and some other people in the community, it seems best to move that to Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples' Day here in Massachusetts. The main reason is hunting and deer. So the deer use that field area in November timeframe, and then hunting starts. And so rather than interrupt hunting or the deer, moving it to October is a time where it's after haying but before hunting. That's kind of the only time where that exists. So I put together a summary of the event, the layout of the land, the plans for safety, first aid, all that is all in there. And we've gotten agreement from the Mayflower Council, which is the Boy Scout Council that is, that this area is in. And we have started that process of filling. They've agreed that this is, an event they'd like to see, and they're willing to support it. So we've started filling out their paperwork to make sure that liability is taken care of from the Boy Scout point of view, the Scouts of America point of view, and we'll have all of that paperwork hopefully done in the next couple of months here. But everything is going smoothly, I guess is the best I can say as far as the planning goes. And so we're ready to get approval from this board for that space. There's a little clarification in the language in there. Originally, we had talked about, leaving permanent campsites there, but that really needs to have a longer discussion with the land use committee. So what I agreed to was that we would do the camping in the open fields and that we would clear some of the invasive species in that smaller area that you can see on the diagram. For people who would be backpacking in, we're gonna have people will have the opportunity to essentially put all their gear on their back and walk in from a central point, get a few miles. This is stuff that Scouts love to Get a few miles in and, you know, bring their gear in on their backs and set up in this somewhat wooded area. And so that's the only sort of major change. But both highway, fire, and police all felt that this event is completely doable and within the realm of possibility for that area. So it'd be about a year from now. So that's my spiel, and I'd just be asking permission from the board to use this space for that weekend. The majority of the event will be Saturday, Sunday, but it's a long weekend, and so we will have, usually what happens with these events is that there's sort of a smaller gathering of people, not just the locals, but smaller gathering of people who like to come out early and help out with things. People who might be doing program or whatever for us, or might need to get a trailer in early or have accessibility needs. So, but the main event will be on Saturday, Sunday, and we're going to be involving the Historical Society and really just making it an awesome both Mendon and scouting event. And so, and I recently heard from some of the other troops, and everybody's really excited to get going. So that would be my ask. Any questions?
Yeah. So first of all, I think this is a great idea. I have very, very fond memories that my family participated in a lot of camp raising when I was a kid. My question is, have you started conversations with any of the abutters on Indian Hill yet?
Yep. That's what another one on Friday. I talked to, I've been basically making my way down.
Yeah.
And as far as proximity goes. And so, Anne has put me in touch with a lot of those people, and there's a trail steward right at the very top. They own that last farmhouse on the top. And this past weekend, I was with another trail steward who lives over on Park, and we were up there talking about getting volunteers together. And I had a chance to talk to the resident in that blue house. It's the second house there. So yeah, so far everything's been positive. But that there'll be, once we have the date, there'll be a real fleecing. We will, communicate the actual full plan and, mail letters and take feedback and all that good stuff. Give a way for them to, say it's too loud, it's too quiet. That'll never happen. But, if they wanted more noise. But of course, everybody is invited, not just the residents up there at the town as well. And we'll be broadcasting it on all medias we have access.
It's fantastic. Thank you.
You think the parking is sufficient?
Yes, the parking is sufficient. I've had the chief look at that. There's a lot of space up there. There's another lot that's sort of brown on that map, and that just happens to be the time of year the picture was taken. But that would be used if we needed to for overflow. But we should be able to fit 500 cars in there. We're not going to have that many cars. Usually what happens is, it's going to be a troop with the leaders. So like 2 to 3 cars per troop. Maybe they have a trailer, and, we'll have a drop off area as well. We also talked, depending on how many people we get there and who wants to come in via backpacking or whatnot. I talked to the chief about, doing a shuttle, if we had to park people at Clough for that weekend. So there's some options, if we want to reduce just the amount of traffic happening on that road, we can do some drop off points, and that's something that's kind of under discussion.
We spoke even with the traffic, both chiefs were confident in their ability to access the site.
Okay.
Yeah, so from the fire point of view, there's basically 2 main things. Like one is accessibility, which is dependent on how much it's raining, right? So hopefully the weather is good and we're able to get trucks all the way in there. We talked about what would we do if we couldn't. Well, we'll move things forward, right? So that's something though that we can't really judge until we get there. And then the second thing is, if it's too dry, there'll be no fires. Chief of Fire, Chief Banga, is a Eagle Scout, and so understands sort of our need to have some fire program there. But I also agreed that, if there is no open burning, there's no open burning, and we'll just we'll do a fan with some streamers and some lights. We'll make it work.
Any other questions? No other discussion, and I'll accept the motion to do the request.
So moved.
Second. This is the request for, the dates of 10/9/26 to 10/12/26.
Yep. No rain date, rain or shine.
Okay.
Mud or no mud.
Any further discussion? All in favor? All against? None,
Abstain.
one abstention. We're good to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, board. I really appreciate it. We'll definitely be back to let you know. Yeah, it's weird. See, I said chief a couple of times, and he shows up. Yeah, let's go back to 6. So we had passed over on 6 so that Chief could come over here and talk about some appointments. Chief, would you come up and chat with us about that?
Where's he? I think we've been doing quite a few of these lately. I'm just trying to build up availability to details. We have a big project coming up on 16. No, we're not filling it. So the traffic constable is a position that can allow people to do details without being police officers. They have to meet certain qualifications. They have to go to training for it. Our qualifications that I've set for men in Oxford show the same thing is you either have to be a retired police officer, career police officer in another town, either part-time or full-time, and you have to get stats. So we know that you have the training to do the job, especially if an emergency comes up during detail. I can probably talk about this, other communities do flag men or other states do, but if something were to happen, those guys aren't trained to deal with it. And I think it's a likelihood for the town, so that's why I've set standards that you have to have the background. The only exception I made to it, the only one traffic constable that we have that isn't a retired police officer, it's a retired fire chief. So the time he did here, and the experience he has for 30 years in his career, he was qualified. So that's the only exception. So someday if I'm still here, in case he retires, I want somebody traffic constable, I'd be the next example.
So we're not required to have police detail. We do this for public safety.
We have to have details in certain instances. So when Route 16 gets done, they're going to work with me. The state will come in. Last project we did, I think I was lieutenant at the time, but I'll coordinate with their representative. And once that project starts, I'll probably deal with them on a daily basis. And we're going to set up a time frame with him. 7 officers here, and this is the time frame. Right, and they'll look to me in advance. I'll just try to stop
As you expect during that time, we're gonna have a lot of.
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to build up. The officers work enough now, it's a different generation where I said 30 years ago, I was going to everybody jobs. You would test. Now, this next generation we have of officers, they seem to be pretty satisfied with their 40 hours a week and picking up on shit. So, which is great. I believe in a home work-life balance, probably better than I was. They have a better work-life balance. It didn't take them 30 years to realize it, so, but that leaves a void. We have times right now with Verizon, can't fill the detail. And if you said Verizon 30 years ago, there were 30 people beating each other up to get that detail, not facing.
So which that's to like run fiber optic, is that?
We did that during 2009 or so. That was back.
Right.
But just
How exactly what?
anything. So the general poles too. So we've been changing poles back, right now, not that beast now.
Right,
And there's always updating work they have to do. National Grid's always doing something. Tree details, when they clear out the trees every 5 years for all the utilities. They call the details for that. And then just the construction that happens now. So now I have a Route 16 project in the next year. I'm hoping that enough I may start calling the sheriffs to fill in.
what are you thinking about Providence Road? Like detail wise, when we get there.
Yeah, I guess I had been down there, the last time we talked a year ago, they talked about doing sections at a time, and if you're doing it different.
Yeah, so we
You might have to get it too.
We did a site visit yesterday with abutters. And right now the plan is to close Providence Road and do the disruptive and annoying detour for 3 to 4 months. and then put up concrete Jersey barriers, you're not getting it. Because if we did the one lane closure, it would, one, be more difficult to divert the stream water, when it's in season, but also it would take twice as long to do it. So we thought the least disruptive way to do it would be a full closure. So we might have, we'll chat. We're gonna have a lot of signage, a lot of communication ahead of time, and maybe we'll have increased police presence on the front end, just to, and maybe on Cemetery Street too, to make sure we don't have folks going out the wrong way. But it won't be a dedicated detail for the area.
And they're open to the Jersey barriers to see.
So we're having a kickoff with DOT next week or the beginning of the week after. I have to check. When we were on site with our engineers and highway earlier this week, and the Jersey barriers were the.
And then we just have part of post no truck traffic and that. So, especially if we do that, but the Jersey barriers can save a life because, you know, people, again, they have between the drinks at night and it's not going on the street that they've known forever being one way, and drive to the side, and then someone comes the other way. That's so many signs you put up.
So we'll try to choke point it to the point where an ambulance can still get through should they need to.
Yeah.
But
You probably want to do something like drop a half lane Jersey barrier right at Cemetery Street in Providence, so that people that are coming at Cemetery, at the end of Cemetery, will only be able to take a left onto Providence, but everybody that's coming down that lives in that neighborhood right there can still get around, but it gives them some kind of a notice with a big detour.
Yeah.
Right on.
and so we looked at making cemetery two-way. We have traffic engineers out there. We had the chief's opinion, and it just doesn't.
No, it doesn't work. That's why it was turned into a one-way when it was.
Brendan's eyeing me, so I'm gonna roll it back to, we gotta do some appointments, Chief.
Yeah, let's get the appointments done. Everybody for you. Two were retired Milford police officers, and then one was a part-time police officer in the town of Milford.
Great, so, there are, there's two reappointments and two.
So
kind of written.
So
Yeah.
28, Shana Kozlowski is an appointment, and then Greg Stanley and David Blaney are reappointments.
Well, there's David, this is another twice thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay,
This is us trying to figure out.
right, I see. All right, so
Yeah, I'm comfortable making one motion for all three people, appointing all three.
I'll make a motion to appoint Shana Klosowski, Craig Stanley, David Maloney to position of traffic constables to the police departments.
Second.
discussion. All those in favor?
I,
All those against? Motion passes. Welcome back, Craig and David, and welcome Shana.
I'm always looking for more retired people if they're interested.
Just, that's what I need.
Thanks, Chief.
No problem.
thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Good night.
See you, Chief.
All righty, so on number 14, which is the life event recognition policy. So we've had some life events with staff and board members over the past couple months, and we have some different ways to react to that. And I wanted to make sure that we all talk together about what that really means. So there's a couple of things on here, maybe, staff policy, flag policy, description's not a real thing, that should have been on them. But the staff policy, essentially, when something happens in a staff member's life, that could be a wedding, or it could be a death or a birth. In a corporation, there's usually a recognition, and here in the municipality, there is recognition that Jeremy will choose to do on behalf of his staff as the manager. But there also there might be a way for the select board to do a recognition as a board, or maybe not. But I wanted to have that discussion here as a board, as opposed to the side discussions Because I think we need to have a standard set for how we react to staff events from a board's point of
Right,
view.
again, I think we might be inconsistent.
So, recent, a department head's father passed away recently. And, so I sent all staff an email recognizing that and saying, so mother passed away, and I spoke with the individual first. Communicated messages about the service, and what we did staff wise is Katie's better at this than I am, is she went out and got a sympathy card and we all signed it. In a very kind of, we're more Veep than we are West Framing style. We had both a birthday card and a sympathy card going on at the same time, and somebody signed happy birthday in the sympathy card. Which was well taken by the individual. But, you know,
I'm just laughing at your Veep versus West Wing.
But, so DLS says, Department of, or Division of Local Services, Women Department of Revenue, says we cannot expend municipal funds on expressions of kind of social bonding that come because of proximity of workplace. So you cannot use, this was an explicit example in the DLS training I went to, you cannot use municipal funds to send flowers to somebody because their parent passed away. That is not allowable municipal use. So it comes down to, you know, the discretion of me or the chair or the board to say, let's get a card, let's send it to somebody, let's take up a collection and go buy cards. But we cannot say we have a $50 budget per, you know, staff member to send folks. So I want to make that explicit to the board. And I don't think we should, I know we don't, and I don't think we should necessarily have a policy to say this is what we do. I just wanted to communicate to you that this is what we do. We get a card, we send notice around, and there were multiple Mendon staff members who were at the services. I was away and I couldn't go, and I feel bad for that. But there were a number of people here, both at the current staff members, parent who passed away, and at Bill Ambrosino, which we'll get to, the elected official, his services passed away too. We did a similar sort of thing. So that's been my policy. Whether the board wants to codify that to be the town's policy to do something, it's up to you. But it's I want to communicate to you that that's how I'm approaching this work.
So the discussion for our end is how, and I don't think, personally, I don't think you should do anything differently. I think it's your staff, you should express yourself that way. I don't think we have to tell you to do that. That would be in your review. But from the board's point of view, yeah, how would you like to be, here's the first thing, would you like to be notified of all of these events? As Jeremy is notified, so that's the first thing, because
I
we're
would
not
like
always
to be.
notified. So that's, because I heard of other events that I didn't know about,
Right.
and that's a proximity thing. So that was the first question, would you like to be notified? If the board would like to be notified, I don't think we have to vote on that, we just have to say, yeah, could you, like the memos that you send to all staff, could we be included on life events? If the board could choose to then express themselves, whatever way they see fit.
Yeah. Some questions.
Right.
Right.
Jeremy should
Right.
add that that was also asked, right, before the email.
So yeah, my worst traveler, my grandfather passed away, but I was kind of a jerk and I didn't have a relationship with him, so like it wasn't important for me for anyone to know that. But I just told him there, like, we'll be out for a day, I want to go support my father, right? But like, I don't need the town accountant to tell me sorry, right? So yeah, that's a piece of it that I, so we talked.
Some flexibility that way.
Yeah.
Right. A good plan.
So, yes, and then, does anybody have anything to say other than me?
I would agree with Jerry. I'm happy to move it up to your office to manage as you see fit, rather than codifying it. Awesome. But like we was just said, would like to be notified.
You know, and, oh, sorry.
I was just saying, just so you can.
Yeah,
I think it's a fine procedure, whatever.
And we as a board have sometimes sent an expression of sympathy, but I don't know that we've known about all of them necessarily. So like knowing that we are not, it's not intentional. If we have not acknowledged someone, we may just not have all gotten the notification. And I think if we can have that system in place, then maybe we as a board, not as a policy, but we as individuals can decide if we
Right.
want to like be more consistent
That's
moving
essentially
forward.
to be as have in the past. Few sent flowers, sent things,
Right.
recognize that.
It was-
As a board,
Mhm.
or you prefer to give an individual. And yeah, so the financial thing, put that aside, because we've always just done it ourselves.
Right.
Right,
But I kind of like the idea of, you know, on behalf of the board.
I think,
And then I did individual stuff as well. but
Right.
As a board, I think. You know, if you're being notified, I mean, we should be doing something.
Yeah.
Collectively,
Mhm.
where the finance is not an issue.
We've had a couple of times that I can think of when someone who interacted with the board on a regular basis, you know, had a death in the family, and we did pool our resources to send flowers from the board, you know, or from the members of the board. But again, it was something that we did individually out of our own pockets. It was never money that was spent. Town funds were never expended for that purpose.
So then there's a little bit of a logistical question, which is if we want to send something to us, and Jen, I see your hand, I'll get to you in just a sec, sorry. If we want to send something to this employee, we have to know their address, right? Which means we have to get HR. I mean, what are the procedures there? Like, how do we deal with that?
So, yes, from the board, you would, express your interest in doing this as private entities, and then I would go to the individual and say, is this something you'd be interested in? May I have your? So it wouldn't be kind of a surprise sort of thing for them. So we would say, is this something you're looking to share? So we can go to it. So, interestingly, when we had our first kid, I had a gift show up on my doorstep, and I'm like, how, I couldn't figure out who it was from. It was from someone at my work who did exactly what you were saying, and went through HR and got my address, and I was super uncomfortable that happened. So, yeah, I would expect the procedure to be,
Okay.
say, we want to do this, and I say, are you, can we do this sort of thing?
Okay. Jen,
Hi, sorry. So a couple of things. I'm with Jeremy. I'm a little uncomfortable with giving out, I guess, employee addresses, but we could certainly come up with some type of plan
We can
if
also
you wanted
do
to send something.
Right.
Right. And in the past, we've done it, we've gone through, actually, your office coordinator on behalf of the board, of sending boards whatever we decided to do, so.
We can, I didn't even think that, yeah, we can, they work, right, we can map it out.
But then my other concern is where are we drawing the line? In the last 2 weeks, we've had an employee's mother pass away, an employee's mother-in-law pass away, and an employee's aunt pass away. Not to mention a few weeks ago with Jeremy's family, he had family members pass away. So what would the policy be?
the recognition of the event.
Yeah,
Is
of the
that-
event. I mean, are we, are we
Right.
sending?
I mean, how far out in the family circle do we
Yes.
address?
I thought we
I
leave
guess
it up
that's
to
my question.
I thought we leave that up to discretion of the town administrator.
So when I notified the
Okay.
board, I didn't send an email staff email and send one out the last time. But I did when an employee, so kind of spouse, parent, child is where I.
Immediate family.
Yeah, immediate family.
Yeah, immediate family seems reasonable. I think that's how most policies are written.
And I said this earlier, all regulations is slippery slope, like you need to draw the line somewhere all the time. That's part of the job. So yeah, I think, yeah, spouse, parent, child is reasonable.
And that's why I say leave it up to the town administrator, because part of this is gonna be, he's gonna go to the individual, and the individual may not want it broadcast.
Yeah, we
And
don't
then
want
they-
to impose ourselves.
And they say so, and then we just acknowledge that,
And there's gonna be some situation in which I will.
yeah, sure, but that's,
Yeah, so leaving that shade of gray to. I think the most reasonable.
I think we need to leave it up to you as the person on the ground, so to speak, because the other option is just, it's either everybody or nothing. You can't do everybody, and you shouldn't do nothing. So we leave it up to
Exactly.
leave it up to the discretion of the person who is here day to day.
Sorry, just waiting for the siren. So, so that dovetails into the flag policy and specifically the part of the flag policy that recognizes, running the flag at half-mast to recognize the deaf. Now, the flag policy is pretty generic and broad, and that was intentional. If the board remembers at the time, that was adopted essentially to prevent the town from being in a position to deny or accept any sort of political flag for any sort of reason, and to be both non-denominational and to be neutral in macro politics.
And it was suggested by town council.
Right. So that's why we adopted that policy. Now, what that policy essentially says is that the chair can choose to do whatever they like with the flag to recognize an individual. And so recently I did this, and previously Mike has done this. And I wanted to talk about, either leaving this as an executive action or putting rules in place for how long it would stay down and go back up. Because at the moment there isn't, it's just arbitrary, and
So there's no fixed number of days.
there's no fixed number of days. And I'll tell you, in the last instance, the reason I chose a week was because of when he had passed and when they were going to bury him, right? And that was it. That was the only thing I had put into that thought. And it didn't happen at a time where I could do a lot of thinking. So, which is always going to be the case, right? So what I wanted to bring to the board was, what are the board's thoughts on this? I'm kind of either way on this. I don't want to, except for I don't want to say that that this can't happen. That's the only thing I don't want to say. But to put a time limit on it, I think is appropriate. To also leave it up to the, executive decision, I think is appropriate. I just kind of wanted to hatch that.
Yeah, I could see it being something like no more than X number of days or so that it's not ongoing.
And there is existing flag etiquette,
Mhm.
so they,
Right, we could just choose to adopt the US flag etiquette.
but it doesn't give it to municipal. Right, well, two things, we were talking about city, municipal employees, committee members, et cetera, or are we talking about
Upstanding members of the community.
yeah, so I think there's who do you do it for, might be something I'll think about. I don't want to run afoul of existing flag etiquette that I may not be aware of for, say, veterans. I mean, the president's 30 days. I think the sitting congressman is from death to internment. You know what I mean? So there are rules out there for different types of positions. I just don't want to run afoul of that. The other thing I was wondering about is, if you're driving through town and you see our flag at half mast, the federal flag, people are gonna say, who died, right? I mean, we do have is that an official Mendon flag right here?
It's our seal on flag.
Well, if you're recognized municipal, I wonder, is that actually?
Well, the issue is it's not up on a staff anywhere that you can put.
Part of this would be, do we put that up on the staff and recognize important community members from Mendon perspective, but.
I mean, my 2 cents is that the whole idea of leaving it up to the executive is there's flexibility there, and frankly, because all of us are transitory, we don't always know, everything, and there may be some people that might not want the flag put at half mast for them. just like there may be some people that don't want their family member to be recognized. And that's why I think flexibility in this area is important. And I do think it makes sense to, to limit have the maximum time, like Elena suggested, is the 30 days, but I think that's already baked in. If it's not, I mean, I guess that's the only piece of this, but I think we also just leave it up to,
I mean, what would the board do in the case of like the chair saying it's down for 60 days or something, like, some, really long period of time? I mean,
my
is that
suggestion
a
is,
political?
my suggestion is that we table this and have the town administrator research it with town council and other policy to find out if there's something already in place. If flag etiquette of some other,
State MGL.
There is flag in place, I know that to be true, it covers governors and state level.
but I mean, as far as the length.
Yeah, it does go to municipalities. I would just go back to I understand everything that's been said, I think we need to do something, I'm happy we did do something. I just don't want to run afoul of etiquette
Right.
that exists. And I just wonder if we're honoring Mendon municipal employees, citizens. Is federal flag or a Mendon flag and flag is flag. I mean, I understand Mike's point. It's here in the room, it's not flying, but that's me. We fly it underneath. That's why they have the rules in the etiquette about nothing can fly above the national flag, right?
Right.
Mike,
I don't know if this version, but, just a thought.
my concern with putting up any flag except the American flag is I thought the policy we set in place was the American flag is the only one. I mean, I know that there's the MIA flag, and but those are accepted. I just don't want to do anything that's gonna, well, you put that flag up, so let's put, and then if somebody says, well, I was a pet flag, so, I mean, I was a pet owner, so maybe we should put up a, for this, it's just, I think it's a slippery slope.
So what I had said to some board members was, definitely slippery slope, and I recognize that. Sitting member of town government, so this was an elected member of town. So that's why it wasn't my call, that's why I supported the call, was that we had a sitting elected member of town. So I'll definitely go and research this, I think that's the direction we're. But I think that's fine. I joke to my wife, like, if I die in office, you better irritate with like, so like then, but does that mean we do it for someone in town government too? Or that just elected members, do we do it for non-elected members on commissions?
At the time, the private conversation I had with town council was that, again, it's a slippery slope, but that's why you leave it up to the chair.
Everybody not in the chair position loves that.
You're never gonna, I'm sorry, but I would never be afraid of giving somebody, recognition and showing some.
I can't think of an instance where I would choose to do this for somebody who I didn't think it was appropriate to do, but I also don't know how it would make that mental calculation until it happens.
You speak to the family. I mean, if you feel you need to, you speak to the family. Most of the time, the family will let you know, or somebody will let you know
Yes,
ahead of time.
lots of people.
Right. And the answer to that is, I think you should run for select board. I think you should run for office.
Well, I think you gotta respect that response, because
Sure.
everything's come from a different perspective. So I'm okay, if you stick with this federal flag, I just don't want to run afoul of existing etiquette. That's my whole thing.
All right, so we'll take a look at this and then just bring it back to a future meeting to touch base and, say, we need to amend our policy this way, or it really just makes a lot of sense to keep it as
I mean,
is.
See,
I have not read
and
it.
my answer to that question should be veterans is,
Yeah.
I think there's plenty more ways to give public service than just to be a veteran of the armed forces. So what if you were a police officer? What if you were fireman? What if you were an elected official? They're all public officials, and it's their flag too. So
All right, So thank you for talking with me about that today. I knew this was gonna be a little sticky. So letter C, description. We're gonna pass over that. All right, so, so 15, town administrator's report.
Yeah, definitely. So 4 things here. So as we discussed at Vanderbilt Farm Winery, their parking lot across the street and parking lot there is for stuff that happens over there, and parking lot on the side of the street where current existing. So they're going to be coming to the select board to ask for a pouring license across the street, A-frame, 18 Mill Street. So just going to prepare the board of that, and folks who are listening, that the parking lot that they instructed to say is for operations on that side of the street. They're going to start operations on that side of the street. So they have their federal licenses and they'll be coming to the board for their local license. In October, not ready for the next meeting, 2 weeks to advertise, there'll be a public hearing. I had a department head meeting last month, and where I said to folks, I'm happy my review coming up. I want to make sure you all have kind of check-ins and touch base on what your goals are. And I think it's unfair to have an end of the year review without a beginning of the year. So I've set up department head meetings, recurring monthly department head meetings to be one of the little things you don't feel the need or the take time to schedule a whole meeting on, but want to touch base with me, but also principally to set what our goals for fiscal 26. So I had my first meeting with the library director today, and then over the next two and a half weeks, I'll get every department. But that'll be monthly meetings that I have check-ins with the department heads. That I didn't do over my first year, but I think are important to have going forward. I also had a meeting today with our water study team, talking about funding. It's called Zone 1 control, so the buffer zone around our public water supply. We need to do some land taking, so appraising that. The folks didn't like the first appraisal, so we're in the second appraisal, and going forward with that. How we engage the public to say, this is not some big scary thing we're coming in with, but what it means to have good water supply centrally distributed within town. And then we're going to meet with a handful of developers that would be interested in one way or the other to say, this is coming in this targeted corridor, commercial corridor invented. What would be important to be able to spur development here? What are your concerns? What can we, in terms of, because as we do the economic modeling, we want to know what could possibly be here. So what's the economics of this in terms of demand, in terms of revenue generation? So that's all very, very squishy. When it's committing to anything, but we want to talk to the folks in that side of the world because we're not that side. Planning is meeting with council next week. We had a zoning bylaw relative to the flood plain that I talked about here. It's like 2 weeks. Great, scary. We need to call a special town meeting to fix this. We didn't the renewal dates, so that will be on the. We have we already talked. So this will be on the town meeting warrant to minorly adjust the language of the floodplain warrant to meet certain in the Massachusetts Emergency Management Association's requirements for the floodplain. National Grid does a no cost to us consulting services on fleet advisory. So things that says, what are all your vehicles? How much do you drive in a year? Where are they housed? Do people take them home? How many hours a day do you use them? When did you buy them? When do you plan to retire them? Are they used for snow plowing? Are they used for police pursuit? This whole waterfall of questions. And then they give you a recommendation, obviously not an obligation, but a recommendation to say, these are the vehicles that can be replaced with electric vehicles or hybrid vehicles. So it'll give us a little bit of a roadmap and time and capital to say, we have these 2 or 3 police admin vehicles that are retired cruisers. But there are grant opportunities to have you come in and be an electric vehicle. There are, this, whatever, DPW or this highway or parks vehicle or town vehicle is not used for plowing or police pursuit. There's actually an EV equivalent that you can get for. So it's a free service that National Grid provides, so we're getting all that data over to them right now.
What, is that just on fleet or is that on?
So it's also on mowers and weed whackers and the whole thing. So that's the pain of it. It's trying to get the inventory of every 2-stroke engine that we have,
John had started, right? Just,
and it's Smarts Capital, so that's really informed it. So Isabella is our conservation agent is really spearheading this project, and then I got involved in it earlier this week. I was like, oh, well, we already have a lot of data. We've essentially dealt with the data.
You need to look at, the opportunities around charging stations. So they're from the MMA. I think, Mike, you and I definitely talked to a couple of people about, having people come in and add charging stations. If you're actually thinking about more growing the EV inventory.
So that's part of the data. The study is what's your current infrastructure and what do you need? What investments would you need to make to support our recommended infrastructure? So yeah, we save money by having EVs, but we put 30 grand to charging stations, like we're going to make the break even point there, right? So
And
that's
some of these companies where we will do it for you. Some of the earlier grants were.
yeah, a lot of the earlier grants are done now.
But
But
I had some more for municipal fleets. Municipal is still available.
yeah, there's still level 2 money about slower charges.
I'm also-
Banks.
I'm also wondering if community preservation funds in any way qualify for any of that. And I'm thinking something like the back of this parking lot, I almost guarantee would be, because it's southern exposure, you could put one of those elevated set of solar panels with some charges underneath it, and you could probably, in a solar battery, and charge them all. It would cost nothing, for the energy. And then you'd have all of those vehicles, like I said, the admin vehicles, all charged, and you would use every day. It's gotta be sources still out there to do that.
yeah, the solar arrays, they need to get up just under a certain threshold where they don't need the battery storage, or they need to like go past that threshold in order to make it economically viable for the installers. And this
Yeah.
part got a little small for that economic.
We got still on the lamp.
We can not fill this.
I'm just thinking of up what they put up at the school with that elevated. That's surprising.
Yeah,
to me.
they're putting those, you see they've made a lot of progress over at Misco.
Yeah.
They moved the pole, but the charging stands in, they don't have the chargers in yet, bases. All right,
So that's fleet. And then I've been compiling sort of the one-off board votes to do one thing or another. Town administrator appoint on-call firefighters, terminate folks in their probationary period, that sort of thing. So I'm coming up with a repository of those sorts of delegation of authority. That'll have an digital file, put on the website, but definitely share. And then the general bylaw review committee tonight, which is why the chief was not here right at the beginning, was discussing a noise bylaw. And so something that will be on the town, something I'm proposing to be on the special town meeting warrant, will be acceptance of the MGL of chapter 40, section 21D, which is the non-criminal disposition, which allows the town to fine people for things rather than arresting them. So right now, we just had, if we have a noise complaint, the only recourse that the police department has is to arrest someone. Which is not what anybody wants, not even the person who's calling to complain. So it also would give the building commissioner the ability to fine folks for being out of compliance with building permits and things like that. So it would, so it's kind of this two-step thing, which we can do at the same time, which is accepting the MGL and accepting the bylaw that establishes fines for various things. So I'm going to be working with the general bylaw review committee in the and the police chief and the commissioner on what that looks like. But I hope to have that on the special town meeting warrant. It's a little more complicated than everything else we're doing, so it may, take a few months and get on the annual town meeting. But if maybe we could just accept 4021D and then build the bylaw after that. I think would be beneficial to all the working employees. Okay.
Alrighty, so, number 16, we're gonna do, something a little different than we, I think, have ever done. Because we haven't had a chance to do this yet, so we're going to, move into executive session. For purpose 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. And we will come back after this executive discussion to do the town administrator review, future topics, and to close the meeting. So we will be putting the meeting right now on hold, but we will come back in however long this takes. So I would move that we enter executive session under purpose 2 to discuss strategy with respect to the town administrator review and to reconvene in open session.
Second,
Discussion? All those in favor?
Goddard, aye.
Cooter, aye.
Chanel, I-
Brugos, aye.
Morale, aye.
All right, motion passes. Jeremy, we'll come down and get you in a little bit. And,
Structure of these agendas, is this? It's getting, I'm finding it confusing.
All right, so we are back from the executive session. It is 8:30 PM. And we are moving on to number 17, which is the town administrator review. Jeremy gets to sit next to me and hear me talk. That's super pleasant. All right, so for the public and for Jeremy, this is not something that we've done before. This is all very new. We came up with this procedure this year, and to be fair to Jeremy, he also did not have a full year to achieve his goals. So I want that all to be said out loud. What I'm going to do, Jeremy, is go through this document that you received already, and then I'll give you a chance to respond, and then I'll give the board a chance to respond to you. That's kind of the procedure. All right. So for the public, I'm going to read some sections of the document. And so I'm going to start with the goals section. Jeremy has made great progress towards each of the listed goals, but given the timing of when the goals were set, several of them have not yet been fully completed. But overall, we are impressed by the progress and look forward to seeing the goals completed in the near future, which the majority of them are on their way. And just saying again, to be fair, the formal goals were established in January and don't represent all of Jeremy's deliverables or priorities. He had started in July, and the board didn't assemble goals until that winter with Jeremy's help. And we fully expect a modium of proactive planning. That's not a word I know what word that is. Planning, Jeremy will deliver on his FY26 goals and exceed expectations. But it's been less than a year, and you've made substantial and commendable progress on an ambitious set of goals, solidly exceeding expectations for this goal review period. And those words are key. And so there's a rating scale in our document from 0 to 4, whereas 2 would be meeting expectations, and a 3 is exceeding expectations. So I think congratulations on your 6 months of exceeding expectations. You've done a phenomenal job. And so to reinforce that, what I'm going to do is kind of go back through and pick out some of these items from the different sections. So the first section is the personnel practices. I want to read this line, which is Jeremy has stabilized the operations of town, and after a period of high turnover and justifiable low morale, he has begun work to implement procedures and corrected long-standing issues within the town in a fair manner. And he's demonstrated exceptional skill as a mediator professionally, proactively resolving conflicts between employees, boards, and commissions to foster a consistently cooperative atmosphere. Can't say that enough. As far as staff development and training, Jeremy has actively modeled the importance of continuous learning, consistently translating knowledge gained from professional development into practical, innovative improvements for town operations. I don't think there's been a single board meeting where we have sat here and you have not educated us on something new that you have learned. I think that happens every meeting, and it's fantastic. Jeremy's worked collaboratively with other town staff to begin expanding and developing our internal and external professional development program. And we're thrilled to have that become a focus. I know that town staff are happy with the changes, and it's pretty awesome. Like your hot dog grilling event in the parking lot just recently. Like those small things go a long way.
I helped with that. That was all Jen. I helped execute Jen's vision.
So under work relationships, Jeremy provides the select board with requested information and sufficient lead time for their meetings and effectively implements their policies and directives. That would be our policies and directives. He is open to collaboration and when appropriate seeks information from other governments or explores options for consolidating programs to improve efficiency. This is also something that happens just about every meeting. Jeremy's talking to another town administrator. He's working with the chief and the MEC, and he's working on regionalization in certain areas. This is something that's been ongoing, and we're excited to see you continue that. Under public relations, Jeremy has worked with the town staff to expand the web presence of the town to open up more lines of communication. He's also added text.my.gov. He's also left his door open. This is the much needed improvement and previously to how we used to communicate with the town. So we're really looking forward to that getting better, even better as we move forward. And I know you have some awesome ideas on tap for us. So based on updates and interactions, Jeremy continually references his engagement across peers and municipalities, professionals, as well as past personal contacts. He's always deferring personal kudos, we just did it a second ago, and recognizing the contributions of his directs and stakeholders. And that can't really be enforced enough, because without a positive thinking staff, we don't have a positive running town. Under leadership, his personal integrity and drive set a clear standard for excellence, motivating staff and volunteer board members alike to meet their goals. He's earned the trust from both staff and select board through his consistent and fair-minded approach. I think consistent and fair-minded approach should be bold. That is probably one of the most unifying comments I hear about Jeremy is that, and I think you should be proud of that. Jeremy has the ability to build consensus and effectively manage meetings between people of differing viewpoints, including this board. And we've received a lot of positive feedback from the staff and from the public, and anecdotes about how you're leading town meeting and leading the town in the meeting, not just leading town meeting, but leading the town in the meeting, have been coming in, and so that's another thing that's very new for the town and a huge boon to us. Under financial administration, Jeremy's knowledge of all aspects of municipal finance, financial management are stellar. That is a word that was chosen on purpose, because your knowledge in the financial area far exceeds this board's collective knowledge, and I don't know what we would have done last budget season without that knowledge. So you bringing that background into the town has been positive to this town. And you navigated that first budget cycle with minimal disruption, and more significantly, came away with opportunities to enhance the process moving forward, as you mentioned earlier today. So yeah, always on top of it. Under written communication, Jeremy demonstrates the foresight in his communication, proactively briefing the board and department heads on key issues to ensure they are always well prepared for situations. Earlier in this meeting, he had talked about the document repository for things that have been voted on by the board, as well as his all staff memos to direct actions in the future. Written communication is one of Jeremy's particular strengths, and you know exactly what he's thinking and saying when you receive an email from him. On oral communication, Jeremy does not let emotion cloud his judgment, even when faced with difficult conversations or others that are more clearly having an emotional response. His professionalism, no matter the circumstance, is appreciated. And I will say that one more time. His professionalism, no matter the circumstance, is appreciated. It is very difficult to do this job. Emotions are running high because there's a lot of pride in a small municipality such as ourselves, and there's a lot of hats being worn, and your ability to just maintain your composure and your professionalism, it's something we needed. So you have a very strong skill set here, and you understand that critical nature of effective communication. Under decision, we're almost done. Under decision making, Jeremy shows the rare ability to rapidly analyze complex situations, identifying root causes to develop multiple solutions where others see only complexity. That simplification and work streaming of complex stuff, that is a daily thing here. I feel sometimes like everything we do is very complex. And so, your ability to break that down and help make decisions quickly in the moment means we're not really waiting for a response. We know what's coming. And so that leads into Jeremy can be counted on to provide prudent and measured guidance to the board after having carefully considered all the possible outcomes. He's made sound management decisions, ensured decisions were carried out, kept us informed. Under productivity, I don't know that we could have asked for more productivity. Jeremy is impressively productive, especially given the daily demands of the job. He's not only responding to the board and the public, but all of his staff and doing that in an excellent manner. Delivering on projects that provide value to the town. The purposeful approach to directly strengthens the town's financial position and ensures its long-term success. That means that taxes are predictable. It means capital improvements are predictable. And it means when we get to budget season, we know what we're getting into. And then finally, I want to end on knowledge. I think that one of Jeremy's best attributes is his ability to gain knowledge, not just have knowledge, but gain knowledge and understand when he's not the smartest person in the room. He seeks that out. He seeks out people who know the answers. And we found that that's been a huge positive. His ability to research and pursue information that fill those knowledge gaps is tremendous. And we're really confident in your decision making and in the direction that you provided to the board. So you worked really hard to advance priorities on behalf of staff and departments and boards, as well as our own. And so we just want to recognize all of those positive attributes that you have here in public. So, Jeremy.
Yeah, thank you. It wasn't, I'm super uncomfortable. Yeah, thanks. I've said to anyone who's asked, that this is like the most, this is the most difficult job I've had, where there's nothing that's intractable with it. We all are problems solvable. It takes effort, and it takes people, and it takes desire, but we can do it. So it's been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed my time, and I really doing one of my most favorite things is being able to tell staff about their own professional around, but it's also about training and development. I don't think everyone who works here is work forever, and like that's good. There's maybe it's an impossible thing to see jobs, but it's like, what if you train people and they leave? Because what if we don't, they stay? So like I'd rather build people up, have them while they're doing their thing and learning their thing. And if they leave go somewhere else, like great, now we have a resource somewhere else to be. So staff development, training, conferences seem like a time out of the office for it, but I think it's really important to a lot of staff. So I've really focused on staff development. Yeah, I pride myself on knowing what I do now. So I appreciate you answer them. So it'd be weird if after a year I appreciate the board taking a chance on me as like a financial person, middle management person. I led groups but not organizations. I appreciate the opportunity to do this for all of you. So yeah, there's room for growth. Thanks for the feedback.
Well deserved. Board.
Got a couple things. One, great summary.
Thanks.
Chair, no, and I think it's sort of this. Keep my expectations personally, and I think that is underlying thing, all the decisions, all the actions that in these different categories, there's always, I've noticed one underlying thing that's risk mitigation. You make a decision, there's this thought on risk and mitigating risk that I think usually goes over the board. So I just want to call that out. I think that's in terms of steering the town, it's hugely beneficial for us. Thank you for that. Second thing I'd say, don't be afraid to be selfish. Well, no, I mean, I'm serious. I think you're very focused on what everybody else needs. Certainly over the next year, you can start talking about what you need. You need to accelerate execution, things like that. So don't be afraid to be selfish.
So actually, that's a good segue. So my rating also exceeds. I want to take a second to read something I wrote in my summary. So with a small staff, I know it's impossible to do everything. Please ask for help and inquiry. Don't be afraid to push back on us. A reasonable timeline to go check. I see that.
Reasonable time?
Unreasonable. So, this one side.
I'd like to add, I've really enjoyed working with you, Jeremy, and like, I think, I just started as chair when you started, and I think it was like, we were both learning, but like, I just been so impressed by how much you've learned, and really, I appreciate your levelness, that like in the face of stress, that is like such a huge attribute. And then I also just wanted to point out that I've had multiple people approach me, people that I know through the schools saying like, wow, who was that guy at the town meeting? Like, he was amazing. Like, how did we get him? So like, anyhow, I wanted to just pass that on. This is your first year. So like, it's like, are you known throughout the state? Probably not yet, but like, but like, I think that the towns, many of the townspeople are like, they've noticed you and they've expressed appreciation for your skills.
Thanks.
I don't know what I can add to all of that, except that I'm grateful, excited, and appreciate the job that you've done. I think it's what you've been some really terrific medicine for what the staff and what the staff need. And I think it's noticeable across town. And I just want to say thanks. We're very knowledgeable of the climate, in all the municipalities, and how places are clamoring to have people like you. And we're going to do what we can to keep you.
Appreciate that. I'm sure my time enjoyed working with the staff. We got a good team. Not a very deep bench. I talk about that all the time. We're department heads, our department staff, and we're very strong on that. So I'm looking forward to kind of building that knowledge in town, and building that staff of folks. It's a good project.
So Jeremy doesn't want to suffer any more of the positive feedback. We do want to make sure that we retain you, and so we do want to talk. We do want to open negotiations as part of an alignment with the salary compensation report that had come back. So we would like to align all of that with you as well. Talk about the contract with like our rights. Awesome.
Can I just add, thank you, Jen, for all of your work putting this together. I know, it was a big document you had to fill out, and Jen had to look at all of those and so
Yes,
it was a lot of pages.
it's a lot of pages, and we'll be looking to streamline this next time around so it's not so complicated. We even talked about some procedural things that we would do differently next time to make it easier on us.
Definitely streamlining, I agree.
Yeah.
So as part of my meeting, my department meeting, so a lot of departments, some departments have an established procedure to say this is the library has one. Like other departments are so. So what I'm looking with Jen is creating one to say, hey, if you don't have something, here's a resource for you. You don't need to create it. But then also creating something for the department head level who needs it then. Here's your goals for fiscal 26. How do you line up against them? And the third level is places like the library trustees, the board of health, board of assessors who have the say, I want you to also assess this. We don't you want to be. So Jen and I, it's used to Jen, right? So Jen and I are gonna come up with something to be able to push out to the boards and say, here's the standard. So I'm hopeful that at this point next year, we'll be able to have reviews akin to this, with.
You're stealing my thunder from our meeting tomorrow, Jeremy. I have it already typed up.
Good.
Alrighty, well, then let's move on to number 18, which is future agenda items. We have the highway road maintenance plan on October, that's our next meeting on, 2 meetings from now, on October 1st. The plan of inventory of land, Ann and Isabella are struggling through some complications on that. I think that'll be something later in the year. Fee structure and bylaw, that'll be coming up. Remember, you had heard Jeremy, we need to also accept an MGL to do fines, which is slightly different than the fee structure, but related. We have a Parks Commissioner appointment coming up. Do we have a date on that yet, or?
Yeah, so the Parks Summer Program, the Recognize program just ended last week, so we.
Then a planning appointment is also coming up.
So the difference is, on the Parks Commission vacancy, it says, we have a bylaw that says may. On the planning, vacancy, we have an MGL that says shall. So we lost it, the planning vacancy, within a reasonable timeframe, that's a. You shall fill it.
Interesting.
At least one.
I heard
I think
two.
you're two. He's been out since week, so. Actively probably back in. And then, tying into the fee structure part, I think the general guideline really needs direction on a few things.
Yeah, they'll be here on October 1st. Yeah. Or at least the chair said you. I don't know. And then the last thing is the presentation on the senior work-off program. This is something that we do annually. Right, I assume that Saturday meeting.
This is something that is kind of everybody putting fingers in everybody else's worthy, so I'm trying to get clarity. So we have the council on aging, we have board of assessments, and we have select board, and say, so this is the senior, so we have senior workers, so man, the treasurer's hyper desk. So what is the budget for that program? How do we raise the budget for that program? What is the individual cap? How do we cycle folks through that program? Do we have get the same people through it every time, or get new folks that are cycled into it? And then who gets to set this program? So the select board, the assessors. So it's a conversation between council on aging, board of assessors, select board, to be able to say, how do we design this program?
And are we looking to do that like real soon, or is that like a November, December?
Before that does happen. So we're probably looking at, I would like October, because it would be before we do the tax rate. So I would like to have, this gets paid out of the assessment. So I'd like them to have it before the tax rate. So probably the second.
And then I'd like to just mention as a future topic, it's probably a good time for somebody to contact Sue and maybe reserve some space for a holiday. We can talk about the parameters of that. Great. Does anybody have any additional topics they want to see coming up? All right. You can always email those to Jeremy and I. All right. Next meetings are September 17th and October 1st, 2025. And number 20, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn. So move.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? All right, meeting is closed at 8:55. Have a great day.
Do we have stuff to sign?
Yes. So, maybe, so you all signed that, I was like, okay.
Yeah.